let me remind you about Dr. Bradford. So again, that mentoring firm that specializes in business growth, they have, my gosh, done some planning that has resulted in multi-million-dollar contracts with Fortune 500 companies and municipalities. She's also the founder of the Run Women's Conference, which is now Run Entrepreneurial Conference. So she really is somebody who is leading some major events. Her passion is fueled by educating small business owners and teens of the monetary and realistic outcomes and their global impact on the U.S. economy. Now, she's been featured all over the place. She really is a strong media presence. She's been featured in hundreds of magazine articles. She's been a guest on radio shows, national podcasts, and then we happen to be in Texas, so on Good Morning Texas, which is a local morning show here. She has also authored 9 books. Some of the topics are 21 ways to create relational currency, feeling presidential, the power of cake, Business Basics 101, and Shut Up and Color. It kind of runs the gamut when you talk about Dr. Cass. So also, I wanted to point out too, I've learned some things about her since the last session. She also was the NAACP Female Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018. She's carved out a massive space for herself, and in doing so has carved out a massive space for the rest of us. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Dr. Bradford so that she can present today. And then again, don't be shy about the questions. Post them there and I will get your questions answered and take notes as she's chatting.
All right, so hello everybody. Oh my God, Jenny did a great job introducing who I am. So we're not going to go into that. We're going to jump straight into contracts. So we're going to do a little recap. I told you guys last week that I was a crash test dummy. So that is my disclaimer for all of my laughter and craziness. But we are going to have a good time. And when we're talking about government contracts, it can be a little intimidating. A lot of people are afraid of the government, right? Right? I always tell people we get afraid when certain alphabets sit together in church, right? So when IRS and FBI and CIA, right? All those alphabet soup companies, we get a little intimidated. So I'm going to go past all of this stuff that Jenny already told you about. So we're going to do a little recap, right? We're going to talk about who is our boo. Remember that? We talked about who is our boo. And I told you guys, oh, I'm sorry, this was my boo, Idris Elba. So we'll just get past him, right? But we talked about who is our boo, and our boo is the government. Our boo is the person who we are in love with because this is the person who has money, right? Who's looking for us, who's looking for our business. And guess what? They want to do business with us. And it's not just the government. Remember, we talked about Fortune 500 companies who could be our clients. Wouldn't you love to have a multi-million-dollar contract with Walmart or Toyota or Nissan or GM or Chevy or Keurig, right? Or anything Warren Buffett owns, Acme Brick or BNSF Railway, Wells Fargo. Wouldn't you love to do business with your boo? So I say I want to do business with all of them. And guess what? They have the ability to pay my invoice, right? So if you guys remember that. And so then we had to break down what is the government. The government is an entity. So we put a name for the government so you can break it down into bite-sized pieces. Remember GoVet? Remember the little ugly picture I put on there? Can we do business with an ugly person? I'm not saying everybody in government is ugly. Don't say I said that. But I want you guys to identify who the government is. So we've named the government GoVet just so you can understand who is the government, right? And that the government has money. So GoVet has a Facebook page, not really, but for this presentation, right? You guys remember that the minority-owned, woman-owned, veteran-owned program has been around since 1980s. It was enacted into a law by President Reagan. This program is in 38 states, even Puerto Rico, right? And this is where the government or Fortune 500 companies who participate, they want to do business with you. And right now, because of the American Rescue Plan, they have to set aside 40% of all of their business to certified minority and women-owned businesses. So it is a great time to be a woman-owned business. It's a great time to be a minority-owned business. And remember, GoVet buys everything. So there's nothing that you're selling that the government is not buying. There's nothing, absolutely nothing you're selling. They buy construction, they buy construction services, they buy parts, they buy medical supplies, right? They buy teaching services, member educational consultants when the pandemic hit and our kids couldn't get teachers to teach, right? uh Claims adjusters, right? They buy everything. They buy ice, they buy toe separators. You're like, Cass, really? Toe separators? Right. They teach cosmetology at the Bureau of Prisons. Did you know that? So there is nothing that you're selling. The tea that Jenny is drinking, guess what? They buy tea. If you manufacture tea or you sell tea, guess what? They can buy from you in volumes. So there is absolutely nothing that you're selling. So we did our recap. So we know about GoVet. We know that uh, we want to do business with her, right? We want to do business with the government. We definitely want to do business with the government, right? So we're doing our recap, right? We talked about Boo buys everything, right? We just want to go over our recap. And guess what? They're looking for you. If you are certified minority owned business or woman owned business, right? And that means that that's you. If you own a business and you were born a minority or a woman and you own at least 51% of the business, and you operate the business at least 51% of the time. So I know a lot of us, we go, no, I have a 50-50 percentage ownership. No, someone must be at least 51%. You can be 60-40, 80-20, but who that majority owner must be a minority or a woman, and they must operate the business at least 51% of the time. If you are a veteran with a DD 214, right? Whether you're service disabled or just veteran, that veteran with the DD 214 must own at least 51% of the business, remember, and operate the business at least 51% of the time. And guess what? You can still work a job. We just have to show that you participate in your business 51%. The magic word is 51% here, right? So you guys remember all of that good stuff. And so being certified minority owned, woman owned, veteran, these are called set asides. Remember, when we're looking at RFPs or contracts, we look at who can bid on the contract. Remember, who can bid on the contract. So the contract would tell you, you must be a MBE, minority business enterprise, or a HUB, a historically underutilized business. Now, that certification is only in 2 states, that's Texas and North Carolina. Okay, or a disadvantaged business. Are you a disadvantaged business? Do you have that certification? That certification is for large contracts. Remember, we talked about anything over $1.25 million, or or okay, so anything over $1.25 million, or if you want to do business with the Department of Transportation, and that can be anything. It can be landscape, it could be creating signs, it could be a realtor who's, when they widen the feeder roads, especially here in Texas, and they take your house in eminent domain. So they'll hire a realtor to buy your house from you and help you to buy another one. So being certified disadvantaged business, or I'll say this, our owners, our business owners that are in the trucking and transportation and supply chain industry, you have to be DBE certified. So these are called set asides. So when you're looking at these RFPs, remember RFPs, requests for proposals from last week? When you're looking at those RFPs, before you go to scope of work, we look at who can bid on the contract, right? Because remember, 40% of all business must be given to certified minority, woman, and veteran, right? So we have to look to see who can bid, and then we look at what the scope of work is. Remember, if y'all, okay, still doing recaps, remember 40% of all business must be given to certified minority, woman-owned, and veteran-owned business. So now we're going to talk about requests for proposals. Remember, we talked about RFPs. It means that the government wants you, or the contract holder wants you, to put in a proposal as to what you will charge to do the work, right? So an RFP is a request for proposal. It's a proposal that you submit or that they announcing that they have an opportunity. You have to respond to that request for a proposal with your bid, right? They want to know how much would you charge to do the work, right? So remember the RFPs we showed last time? We talked about this contract was for fiber optic, right? This one was for DJ service. Remember that we were talking about, man, they hiring DJs? Whoop, whoop. Yes, there are parties going on. I'm telling you, every city right now has a contract out for community outreach, like music in the park, jazz under the stars, art festival. Like the city of Fort Worth, Texas has their big art festival, kid art coming up, Mayfest is coming up. Guess what they need? They need audio visual. And so this one talks about they need a DJ. So if you were a DJ, man, I'm telling you guys about to make a whole lot of money. So this is the request for proposal. They're putting out this bid saying this is what we're looking for, right? You respond because in the RFP, it probably talks about how long the DJ needs to be there, what type of equipment, how big is the area, right? So they let you know how many speakers you're going to need probably. I don't know. I'm not a DJ. It may ask, can they use your microphones? Do they, will you have lavaliers, right? So you have to read them. So we talked about what these RFPs, what they look like. And this is what they look like. Like this one is for abatement, right? Remember this one for people that do for the lead paint and the toxic materials that, a lot of these buildings, like a lot of our schools in the United States were built in the 1970s, right? And sometimes they're just rehabbing these buildings. They got to make sure that there's no lead paint. We have kids there. So they're looking for, if that's your company, right? This would be a great opportunity for you. So remember that. And we also talked about how Boo does math, that I love contracts, those low hanging fruit. Anything under $25,000 does not have to be bidded out. You can walk in and ask for the contract. I know you guys like, she is going so fast, but I just want to get through all of this because we want to talk, we want to look at how to read these contracts, right? So we know how to respond. So remember, Boo has low hanging fruit. That's the no bid or low bid contract. So anything under 25,000. So I talked about, I'm in North Texas. I live in North Texas. My office is in North Texas. And if I went to 26 counties, because that's how many counties we have in North Texas, and asked for a $25,000 contract that I didn't have to bid against anybody, that's $650,000 to bid. I didn't have to put together a proposal. I walked into that county office and I said, hey, I'm the woman for the job. I own this business. Here's my capability statement, right? And I need to know, what do you have that's under $25,000 that I can do right now? I got my truck full of equipment. I am ready to rock and roll. I got my team outside. We can knock this out today. And so these are the contracts that I love. We talked about the low hanging fruit. I also talked about how there are 362 cities in North Texas, right? I live in North Texas. My office is in North Texas. If I went to 362 cities and asked for a $25,000 contract, I would probably be tired. But if I got a contract from all 362 cities, that's over $9 million. I would definitely need help and probably resuscitation. I'll tell you guys that, right? So now let's get current, okay? Let's get current. I want to talk to you guys about an RFP. I want to show you what to look for when you're reading these RFPs. So I'm going to slow down, okay? So when I get an invitation for bid or an RFP, there are things that I'm looking at. So this is an actual RFP, right? And what I'm going to look for is to set aside who can bid on this contract. So this is for a flat roof replacement. So if you are a roofer, woo, this is good. And the one thing I want to tell you guys as a sidebar, almost every school in the United States replaces their roof every 5 years. Just so you know. I don't know. Anyway, so this one is from Fort Worth Housing Solutions. And so, okay, that's important to me. I want to know the bid number, but I want to know who can bid. It says circled in red, you must be your MBE or a WBE, a certified minority owned business or a certified woman owned business. Those are the people who can bid on this contract, right? Another thing that is important to me, how do they want me to respond? They say all questions must be submitted in writing and in an email. So if I have a question about this bid, I have to put it in writing or I have to send it in an email, right? And I have to, all bids must be submitted by 1 p.m. Central Standard Time by Thursday, April 8th, 2021. So that's when that's due. So that's important to me. I need to know how long do I have to put together my bid. So the next thing I'm gonna look for is when is the pre-bid meeting. And as you can see, the pre-bid meeting is 2 days before the actual bid is due. So a lot of times you get 30 days. So an RFP will come out in 30 days, and you normally have 1 week after the day that it was issued to go to a pre-bid meeting. If I was you, I would go to the pre-bid meeting, because if you don't go to the pre-bid meeting, if there was a change that occurred at this meeting, you won't get the amendment to the invitation of bid or the RFP. So then your response or your bid would be based on the old information. So what if we went to this conference and we found out that the roof, there was more than one building. There were two buildings on the same property that need to be replaced. But you're thinking, oh, okay, I went by uh, Hillside Apartments and I only saw one. It must be the main building, right? But they didn't tell you they had a shed in the back where that roof also needed to be replaced. So you submit your bid and you win the contract. And they're like, yo, dude, you forgot about the other roof. You're like, wait a minute, that's not included in my material costs. No, you bid it on this RFP, IFB 2021604. And that's what it was for. Had you gone to the pre-bid meeting, you would have known there was an amendment that we included the shed out back. So you always want to go to the pre-bid meeting. Another reason why you want to go to the pre-bid meeting, because if you bid on this contract and you lost, do you know you can find out why you lost? You can get a copy of the other person's bid. So if Jenny and I went to, we're both roofers. We own a roofing company. And I met Jenny at the pre-bid meeting. And so Jenny's like, I don't know, I'm the number one roofer in the city. I don't know why Cassandra's over here talking to me, but I love being number two. I don't care that Jenny's number one, because if Jenny wins the contract, she will still look at me as number two. But guess what? If Jenny won $1 million contract, Jenny needs help. So wouldn't Jenny want somebody just as good as her? Yes, that would be me. So, hey, Jenny, I'm Cassandra. I met you at the pre-bid meeting. Congratulations on getting that bid. Oh my God, oh my God, you did the thing. So I just want to introduce myself, give you a copy of my capability statement. If you need any help, I'm qualified, I'm quantified. I'm going to send her all my information, tell her how I'm so great. Guess what? Jenny's like, you know what? That Cassandra is almost as good as me. I need help. So sometimes I could get a small piece of that pie or cake, because I love cake, just because somebody needs help. So when you go to pre-bid meetings and you meet people that do the exact same thing you do, you need to make friends. Be nice. Another reason why I wanted to meet Jenny, because guess what? If Jenny has to get this roof put on in whatever time limit they give in the scope of work, what about her other clients? She just can't forget about her other clients to focus on this one contract. She may say, Cassandra, I got some small residential houses that I need the roofs put on over here on Main Street. Is this something that you can do? Send me your estimate. Go over there. And so guess what? I may pick up her leftover stuff. Do you know that? And another thing, reason why you want to go to the pre-bid meeting, if I bid on that contract, Jenny bid on that contract, I lost. That's fine. I'm going to ask for the abstract. The abstract is Jenny's proposal. Didn't I say that commercial roofs at schools are put on every 5 years? So do you know if they like Jenny's proposal better than mine? I'm going to prepare my proposal just like Jenny's the next time. Yes, it's legal. It's just like me cheating in geometry in the 10th grade. Oh my God, my dad said I couldn't make anything less than a B, and I didn't. Geometry is not math, people. So just so you know. Back to this RFP. So you want to make nice, you want to go to these pre-bid meetings. And I know it's difficult as a small business owner. You're busy doing the work. You don't want to just go to meetings, but guess what? You get so much information. You can get an opportunity at this pre-bid meeting just for showing up. A lot of times it's just in the show up. So show up to the pre-bid meeting. Another thing you want to do is, okay, where am I going to put this roof on? It's at the Hillside Apartment Leasing Office in Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm going to go by there. I'm going to make sure the measurements are right. I'm going to do all of this before the pre-bid meeting. I'm going to make sure the measurements are right. I'm going to make sure there's no other building on the property. I may do a little sketch. So when I go to the pre-bid meeting and I'm ready for the meeting and someone says, hey, I saw there was a shed out back. Is that included in this RFP? And you was like, yeah, is it? Because I went out to the site too. So they tell you where you're going to do the work, especially this is in construction services, but it also tells you a different address to send the RFP response. See right here where it says FWHS Procurement Office? That's where you're going to send your response to. Up top, the Hillside Apartments is where you're doing the work at, but that's not where you send your bid to. Does that make sense? So make sure you're reading this. And so guess what? This one is an online e-portal response. Thank God. You guys, the old way, and I know they still do them this way. You have to, these RFPs could read, you shall prepare your response on white paper, single space, 8.5 by 11, size 12 Arial font. You like, that is very specific. My default is Calibre, right? But nope, I have seen people lose a bid because they used the wrong font. They want to know, can you follow instructions? Okay. So you have to read these RFPs. And I'll tell you guys, a lot of times I can't read them online. I'm old school. I have to print mine off. I have to circle them like you guys see in my PowerPoint. So I have to highlight stuff with a yellow highlight marker. I have to write in blue in my margins to remind myself this is something I may need to add to my proposal. But this one is a digital or submittal, e-portal submittal. So I love it. You just upload to where it says upload your capability statement. So you upload it there. Upload your list of employees, whether it's W-2s or W-9, you upload that there. Upload your conflict of interest policy there's a form you will fill out. You upload it right where they tell you to. I love it. I'm thinking it took you guys 20 years. Woo! And now the pandemic forced them to come up with an e-portal. So that's another story. So the next thing you're going to look at, your table of contents. You want to know what is the scope of work. You also want to know when are they going to award the contract? And you want to know when do you get started, the notice to proceed. Okay, so that is important. You want to know, can I do the work? Right? So they give you the intro, but what you want to know is all work is pursuant to applicable federal, state, and local laws. So if you have employees, whether they're W-2s or W-9, you have to pay them per the labor statistics of that state or that local law. You can't say, well, I'm only going to pay them $3 an hour because they're my cousin and he already owes me $500, so he doesn't get the full pay. You can't do that. You have to pay them what the local laws say you would have to pay for that type of work. Okay, just so you know. So another thing we need to look at is the scope of work itself. Okay, so this talks about what kind of materials you're going to use. It's going to talk about the contractor shall remove all foreign debris. So whatever's up there, you're going to have to probably get a dump. So that should be included in your response or in your proposal amount, that you probably got to get a dump to dump all the scrap that's already up there on the roof. You're going to remove it from the property, right? And so it's going to tell you about the ply deck that you're going to need, how many inches thick you're going to have for your decking. It tells you everything that you're going to have for this RFP in your scope of work. And we already talked about it in some of these. They said the fee charged by the contractor will be a firm fixed fee per the contract. So that means that is non-negotiable. So let's say, remember when we had the issue with lumber and the lumber prices shot through the roof. So you guys were like, wait a minute, I just submitted a proposal last week for a lower lumber price. You got to be able to read this stuff. Okay, you have to read and see what it says. Okay, so this one talks about you have to have insurance. So if you don't have insurance, you're going to have it by the time that you're awarded the contract, if you're awarded. This one talks about how much liability. Then each RFP is different, just so you know. It talks about you have to have $500,000 in combined single limit. So this is a small one because I've seen it at 5 million. They're going to tell you you're going to have commercial general liability. Sometimes you can say I can do the scope of work, but the requirements for the insurance is too high. So that means scope of work plus requirements equal capacity. You can do the scope of work, but you may not can meet the requirements. And where I find that to be outrageous is in our trucking and transportation. If you're in trucking and transportation and you deliver for Amazon, you'll know that the state of Texas require you to have $750,000 in commercial liability. In your cargo, Amazon says you have to have 2 million. Well, that eats into your profit. So you have to consider, yes, you can make a lot of money, but your expenses are high. So you're spending out more money in expenses. How much will you actually make? So this is sometimes when people ask, I can bid on a contract, I can do the work. Why are they asking so much in insurance? My answer is I don't know. That's a good question that you should bring up at the pre-bid meeting. If it's not standard and customary, it's a valid question. But on this particular contract, this is what they're requiring. Okay. A lot of them, we will also ask for workers' comp. Some RFPs I've seen say, no, you can't have W-9s. They all have to be W-2s. So you have to read them because they all may say something differently. Okay. So on the next page, we're going to talk about how you're paid. So this particular one says that you have to do the work first. And you probably have to pay for the materials first. And then you submit your invoice within 30 days. Okay. This one is a nice one. It says that we will review your invoice in 30 days and they will submit payment within 30 days. Most of them say net 30. Net 30 is different from payment in 30 days. It would actually say net 30. Net 30 does not mean you're going to get paid in 30 days. Can you go 30 days without getting paid, first of all? The second thing, net 30 means you have 30 days to do the work. Within the 30 days, after that, you have 30 days to submit payment. And then they have 30 days to review your invoice and submit payment. That's 90 days. Can you go 90 days without getting paid? No. So that could also be a deterrent. So you have to read how and when you're going to get paid. This one specifically says you send your invoices to invoices@fwhs.org. They will pay you within 30 days of submission of your invoice. Okay, so you have to read them. They all read differently. And then it talks about this contract is only for 60 days. So they know that it's only going to take you, it shouldn't take you more than 60 days to do this project. Are you guys following me? So they know it should not take you 60 days to put on a roof. Now we could say maybe they factored in inclement weather, right? But they know it should not take you 30 days to put on a roof. Okay. So within the time period that you put on that roof, you know that as soon as you get ready to put on that roof within the first 30 days, you need to be submitting an invoice. Okay. All right. So you got that one. So then it tells you what kind of personnel you can have. These RFPs, they all read differently. So you have to read them. It's not a one-stop shop that applies to everything. I'm just showing you one particular RFP and how it reads. And I tried to find one that has some of the wording that you need to pay attention to. So this one talks about who's going to perform the work and what kind of employees you can have. Can you have W-9s? Do they all have to be employees? So this one, it says they leave it up to the contractor's sole discretion. So that's awesome. All right. So then they talked about another thing is unauthorized communication. And this is big with my contractors and my subcontractors on construction services. A lot of times I've seen where a contractor doesn't pay you on time. Okay. So he's waiting because maybe he didn't submit the invoice on time. Are you guys following this where it says unauthorized communication? So you want to contact Fort Worth Housing and go, hey, the prime or the general contractor hasn't paid me. Can you tell me why? And they're like, we have nothing to do with that. That's between you and the contractor that hired you. So they're telling you, don't call them with that. Please don't. If you think I'm gonna get them in trouble and I'm gonna tell them that they're not paying me per labor statistics, and I don't really, your contract, what you should be having is with the general contractor. That's who your grievance is with. If you need to file a lawsuit against the contractor or take him to court or go to arbitration, I don't know how your contract read, but that's between you and the prime or you and the general contractor. Now, if it's you and you're like, hey, I haven't been paid on time, I'm going to contact the board to report. I'm going to go to the federal government. I'm going to report the local government. They're like, hey, that's unauthorized communication. We want you to contact us. So you have to read who you're supposed to tattletale on or who you should be communicating with. Because a lot of times, like, oh, I know the lady who is a secretary in another department at the same facility. I'm going to tell her how the lady over in construction services is not paying me. They said that's unauthorized communication and you could lose this contract. So guess who can slide into this contract as number two? Cassandra, Jenny's company, they failed to perform. And we noticed that you were the next person in line. Would you be able to put this roof on? Can we discuss your response to the proposal? I have won so many contracts because somebody else could not perform. So don't be one of those people that do not perform because your number two is waiting in the wings. That would be me. Remember, I said I love being number two because I have won more contracts because somebody else could not perform. Okay. So, and you never want to lose a bid for failure to perform. Okay. Because that means you'll never get another one with that city. Because trust me, they say they don't keep a list, but I've never known their memory to be that good. So it's got to be a hidden list somewhere. But you don't want to be blackballed at all. You want opportunities to grow your business. Okay. So they always give you a checklist. Don't forget, you got to give us any addendum and acknowledge the receipt. Remember, if you didn't go to that pre-bid meeting, they're trying to help you on this one. Normally they don't. Confirm that you got all addendums, right? Then there's a bid submission sheet where you went out and you did your bid as to how much it was going to cost. Submit that. They want to know who your references are because in that RFP it talked about you had to have 3 to 5 references that we didn't go over. Put that in a different sheet. the conflict of interest questionnaire. Every person has to do this. And it talks about, are you related to anybody that works for this at Fort Worth housing? Are you related to them by blood or marriage? Do you know anybody? Right? So if you answered no, but remember you went over and talked to the lady at the other building, they always go back to the conflict of interest questionnaire. Your documents checklist. They want to know, do you have an equal opportunity employment program? And this bothers me, or affirmative action. I'm like, we don't have affirmative action anymore. But guess what? You have to have an affirmative action policy. It makes no sense to me, but all we do is follow instructions. Okay. They want to know, so all these other ones are forms. They want to know, do you meet the Minority Women Business Enterprise Guidelines, which means, did you upload proof that you were certified minority owned? And this also means all of your subcontractors. Let me just give you guys a sidebar. How you win a contract in construction services, if you and all of your key personnel are all certified minority, that's a great way to win. So they want you to upload all certifications here. So sometimes when they have to meet that 40% minority participation requirement, and you're the only person that's certified, you're not helping them meet the requirements. So, but if you and all of your subs are, they go, oh my God, this counts for my 40%. So that's a win in the win column. So they want you to upload that there. They also want you to upload your W-9 and a profile of your firm. And a profile of your firm could be your capability statement. Okay. So we're going to keep going. So then they talk about how you are awarded. And we talked about that. They talk about how they want to make sure that they're fair and impartial. But they also talk about how if they find out there's something about your business that's not kosher, they don't have to consider you. Okay. And then we talked about performance, right? If you fail to perform, assurance of completion, they want to make sure that you complete the job before they give you your last payment. So let's say it's going to take you 45 days to put on that roof because we had a rainstorm come through, right? And so the first 30 days you submitted your partial invoice because you were not complete, right? And so then in the next 2 days or so, you completed it. Well, what they're going to do, they have to go out there and make sure that the roof is all right. They want to make sure everything is done correctly before they issue you the last part of your payment. So that's what this assurance of completion is. They want to make sure that everything is done right. If they have to call, if it's a situation where they have to call OSHA out, or they have to get a compliance officer out, and a compliance officer can't get there for 4 days, you got to wait. But they want to make sure it's done right before they pay you. And that's normal, because even if you had somebody come do some work at your house, you're not going to give them the last payment unless it's done right, right? So this is the same thing with the government. Okay, they want to make sure that everything is done correctly. So listen, these RFPs are awesome. And I'll tell you guys this, when you're bidding on a contract or you're looking at an RFP, and that RFP may indicate part of it that you don't do, right? Let's say that this was to replace the roof and also do some drywall and painting on the inside. So we're going to talk about the difference between partnership, teaming, and subcontractor. So a partnership agreement is if Jenny and I are going to start a business together, or we're going to do a joint venture just so we can bid on this contract. Okay. So we're either going to partner together, right? So we should have a partnership agreement, or we're going to do a joint venture where my company and Jenny's company is going to come together so we can show them that we have the strength to do this contract. Okay, so that's a partnership agreement or a joint venture. Okay, a teaming agreement is if two companies come together for the purpose of that project only. So it may sound like Jenny LLC and Cassandra LLC is come together for bid number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the only reason why we're coming together. And we agree to bid on this contract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 together. Cassandra is going to bid on the painting and the duct work or something, and Jenny's going to do the roofing. And so should Jenny, because Jenny's probably going to be the one to submit the bid, should Jenny, so I need things in place to protect me, and she needs things in place to protect her. So should Jenny win this contract by utilizing my certification as well and get awarded that contract and don't use me, Jenny should have to pay me the full value. That's how my teaming agreements say. That's when my prayer life changed. Please let her forget me so I can sue her. No, that's not what I say. But you want to make sure you have things in place to protect you. Because I have seen so many times where people go, you're a certified minority owned business. We came together to bid. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. So I send them my bid. I send them copies of my certifications. I send them copies of my capability statement. I send them everything because I know that we're going to team together. And then they get the contract and go, Cassandra, you know what? I decided to use my cousin. Huh? Yeah, my cousin came into town and I promised my mom I would always help my cousin. So sorry, in that teaming agreement, we want to make sure how I get paid. And so Jenny's going to put in there, hey, I will pay you based on me receiving payment from the prime. So I can understand when I'm going to get paid. So there's no mystery. So your teaming agreements need to be clear, and you should have one. Please have a teaming agreement if you team together with somebody, okay? It protects you and it protects the other person. So get on a team. There's a lot of times that I get called for a small project. The contract could be $10 million, but my piece may be $500. That's it. But I'm making money. So a lot of times people will come together and pull together a team to bid on large contracts, especially on DBE, disadvantaged business. Remember, that's anything over 1.25 million. It may say build the whole building. And you say, oh, I don't build buildings. I just put on a roof. Well, because I want to get on that team. Hey, I add value because I'm certified minority owned woman owned, so you need me, right? I just want to bid on the roof part. Or Jenny may want to bid on the roof and I bid on the drywall and the painting. Somebody else is going to bid on the concrete or the demolition, right? So we're going to come together. We're going to team together so we can bid on a contract. So make sure you know these terms so you can still get access to opportunities. And you guys know what a subcontractor is. It may be you've hired them to come to your house to do electrical work or to fix your washer machine, right? And so you'll hire a subcontractor to come out and do those repairs, right? Same thing. That contractor has to be protected. He want to know what he's coming out there for and who's going to pay him and when. And he want to make sure you don't badmouth him. So he probably make you sign his contract that says even if he did shiesty work, you won't badmouth him on social media. You have to read them. So you should be operating. This is business. You need everything in writing. I am in writing kind of girl. Even if we don't have a contract, we're going to do a memo of understanding. Or I can send you an email. I said, may this email serve as a follow-up to our conversation where you said, then I said, if there's any part of our conversation or this email you don't agree with, please respond. If Jenny doesn't respond, that makes that email binding. Okay? Where we had a verbal agreement that I put in writing and she didn't respond. So my assumptions, I did this based on the assumption it was true. Jenny said, well, I never got the email. Hold on, let me go to my sent mail. Because we've been communicating, so I should not have gone to junk mail. Does that make sense? So you need to get in a habit of putting everything in writing. If you don't have an attorney to help look over stuff, I would tell you get legal shield or whatever you need to do to protect yourself. This is business, and dealing with contracts is business. And you want to make sure that no one is going to try and get over on you. You want to make sure that everything is on the up and up and that they're going to pay you when they say, because even if they don't pay you within a timeline, you always go back to the RFP. Well, based on the RFP, you said in the RFP, I would get paid in 30 days once I submitted my invoice. So that's the only Bible they're going to read, they're going to go to. Okay? Not what's ethical, but what the RFP says. So, what is a proposal versus an RFP? We talked about the difference between a low bid or a no bid, or a response to an RFP, whether it's a technical proposal or whether or not it's an electronic response to a proposal. So we already talked about that. We don't need to go over that. We know we need to, when we go to these pre-bid meetings, we need to make sure that we're playing nicely in the sandbox. We're going to meet friends. Why? Because we are vetting people for opportunities, right? Don't get mad because you lose a contract. No, winning is losing. Didn't I tell you I'm number two and I like to lose? Sometimes I look for recently awarded contracts just so I can go and introduce myself and take the excess from them. Hey, Jenny, you just won that contract, girl. Congratulations. Don't you need me to help you with the overflow? Okay. So I know that we went through a lot of stuff today. I don't know how much time I have left, but that's really it. I mean, I wrote a book on Let's Drop a Dime on the Government. It talks about all your NACE codes, your SIC codes, how to RFP. What's an RFP? What's an RFI? A RFI is request for information, which means they don't have the contract out yet, but they want you to give them information because maybe they don't know. So, what? Let me give you a good example. Remember when the pandemic started? And all of these kids were getting on Zoom or getting on Zoom. And then all these pop-ups came and the kids were seeing naked pictures because it was gross. And so they like, oh my God, we did not expect this to happen. We're trying to teach these kids on YouTube or on Zoom, right? And all these naked pictures. So they had to put in filters and all of these things to block all this firewall. And so they're like, look, do we need a firewall or do we just need our own program? How much is this? How fast can you put this program together so we can teach kids? Right?
Yes.
Right? Are you guys listening to me? So that was a request for information. They didn't know. So they were like, listen, we don't understand why these pop-ups are happening. Can somebody tell us? And we'll tell you for a fee. Does that make sense? So
Yes. So, Dr. Bradford, I don't want to interrupt, but we have so many great questions and we've got about 9 minutes to go. So let's rapid fire go through some of these. First one I'll start with is question on that, the low hanging bids. Do they have to give you the job because you were the first to ask for it and meet the requirements?
it's up to their procurement officer. So you want to go and build a relationship with them. And the first thing you have to do is be a registered vendor.
Okay. So you have to be a registered vendor and then you just keep showing up and doing the thing, right? Now, this is another question. What about virtual events? Is there any insurance required for those sorts of things that you're aware of?
So for virtual events or to create virtual learning or something?
They didn't give any specifics, but I'm wondering if, well, I don't know. So let's say perhaps I'm bidding for a government contract and I'm going to host a virtual event and coordinate the back end of it and perhaps do, the sound system and, get the lighting set up and then host it myself.
So you have to read them. You have to read the RFP. If it's anything under $25,000, they will tell you what your requirements are. They will say, hey, you have to show us you have insurance. You have to show us that you are a legal entity, right? And so you have to probably give them those documents.
Okay. Okay, great. So you would have to do that. Now, when it comes to the requirements, we were talking about the certified minority owned businesses. And if I recall correctly, it was 40%. So let's say it's just you and one other person, like you're the person doing the bid and you actually only need one, I guess it would be considered a subcontractor to help out, and they are not a certified minority owned business. Would that still fit the bill since it was 50-50?
Well, it's not 50-50. So I don't want to get people confused.
Okay,
So
okay.
you're bidding on a contract and you say, Cassandra, I want to use you to help me out on this contract because you do the other part I don't do. I'm not a 50-50 partner. You're asking me to give you my proposal as to what I would charge. That's with anything, right? But maybe you are the one that's bidding, so it means your company is assuming the risk. If I was you, Jenny, I would make me, Cassandra, name you as an insured on my policy. So in case I mess up, you're holding the bag because you're taking the risk. And you should get more of a percentage since we're going through your company for the bid. That's what I would do.
Okay. Okay. And it would still qualify. Or let's say, like, if one party is not a certified minority owned business and they're just a subcontractor doing a chunk, and there's only two people involved, I hope that I'm answering or asking this correctly according to the person who asked it. It would still sort of fit those requirements if the main business owner
So
was.
you have to read the RFP.
Okay.
In professional services, normally in professional services, the example we used was construction service, right? Roofing is construction services. Normally in professional service, it tells you how to win. It gives you a scorecard. And it says if you and your key personnel are all certified, that could be 60% of your score. You got to get to 100% to win. The other 20% could be do you meet the insurance requirements? Right? So that's 80%. The last 20% is just your.
This was another one as well. Does every bid, is there always some type of insurance requirement? Is that pretty much standard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
That's
standard.
important. So that's bottom line, guys. Anybody that's trying to get into this, that's something that you'd have to have before you would even get started. Now, how do you manage? Let's say you say, okay, well, I'm going to start bidding. I'm going to just get after it. I'm going to start bidding and putting myself out there. If you're a smaller business, how do you manage? Like, ideally, hopefully you're winning some of the contracts, right? Or winning a lot of the contracts. Is there recommended, like, only apply for a certain amount at a time, or does it just depend on how big you are?
Well, I have to follow my own advice because I have 9 contracts pending. If they all hit at the same time, Jenny, I will pass out. You would probably see me on social media crying with my thumb in my mouth. So you would hope that you're not going to be bidding on something where they all can hit at the same time. Good for me. I already know that they won't. But what if they did? So I will be up a tree. So you want to make sure that you're pacing yourself because putting together a proposal is time consuming.
Right. It's not just like submitting a simple little thing. So you have to really want it if you're going to do it and have belief that you're going to get it. And I guess it also goes back to what you're talking about, is making the relationship so that if a couple did hit at the same time and you were a bind, that you have some people who are also interested in that job and probably also qualified.
Right, and it can help you out. So you want to start vetting. So for me, I vet people like today. I vetted a lady today. She teaches in business classes. So I'm thinking about her on another project. Hey, if 2 or 3 contracts for me all happen at the same time, I can transition her to help me out, right? Where I don't have to be the instructor. So you need to start vetting people now.
Okay. Now, on a pre-bid proposal, they're saying they don't know how much to charge for services because they don't know how much of the bid they will be awarded. Is that accurate?
No, you'll know because they'll tell you, we want you to put a roof on this building. And in your scope of work, it'll give you the measurements. So you'll know how much it's going to cost. So you should know your industry.
Perfect. And I think that some people there's been a couple questions that are similar along these lines. You've really explained it extensively, but there's a learning curve for people who've never been involved with some of the terminology and such. And so they're wondering, can you bid on a contract just yourself? Like back with the DJ example, for example, if you're just bidding on it, you're a certified minority owned business or one of the other certifications that you mentioned, and you go in and you've got your own DJ equipment. You don't even have to is it accurate? You wouldn't need subcontractors.
You wouldn't need a subcontractor.
Okay.
Nope. You can do it all by yourself. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. That's and when you do that, would that be an easier way for someone to start? Or does it just depend?
It depends. So every RFP reads differently. Some of them are small. Maybe it's $25,200. So it's over that $25,000 threshold. So, but maybe you can do that by yourself.
Right. Let's say how does this work? Let's say you say, yes, I can do it by myself. But then the date comes, you agreed to DJ every Saturday for the next 3 months, but one of the Saturdays you get sick and you're not able to. Are you able to, within the scope of the government contract, call your trusted other DJ friend and say, can you DJ for me that night?
Pretty sure you can. Yeah, read the RFP. Make sure 9 times out of 10 they're hiring the service, not the person. You have to remember you are a business, you're an entity, you're not the person. But the person is the one that qualified for the certificate. I know it could be confusing, but 9 times out of 10, I would say yes, they're hiring the business to do the work. So long as that business has a trusted friend that's going to make sure they're in compliance, because I'm going to tell you what I found out and I've seen, like on that DJ example, it may say, and I'll tell you, it'll say you have to have clean music, no cursing, no innuendos, no sexual innuendos. And so you call your friend and you say, hey, I need you to DJ. He's going to DJ like he's at a regular party, right? All the latest music with all the cussing and everything in it because everybody knows the song. And now you're in big time trouble. And they said, you violated the contract. We're not going to pay you because it was very specific. So if you decide to do something like that, you better be absolutely clear that you know the terms where you're not getting in trouble.
Okay, that's a really important reminder. We're just at 3 o'clock, but this last question is good and other people have it as well. They're asking for clarification. Can I literally walk into the city and county offices and register as a registered vendor and obtain information on the current bids they have and have the possibility to obtain that contract on the spot?
Okay, so I don't know what you mean by obtain the contract. So you need to make sure you're certified. Make sure you have a capability statement. Make sure you're registered as a vendor. Then you want to go in and meet with your purchasing and procurement officer and introduce yourself and tell them that you're ready to do the job. Okay, anything under $25,000. Certain cities, they'll put it in the newspaper or they'll have it on their website, or if not, you can walk in and ask for them. So, but make sure you not go to a city office or any office if you're not a registered vendor and you don't have your certifications.
You show up prepared, people. Okay, Dr. Bradford, share your information. I know that you have continued education, other programs, things like that, a wealth of information. Go ahead and share where everybody can find you if they didn't grab the QR code.
All right, so if you guys ever want to get in touch with me, you can go to iamdrcass.com, iamdrcass.com. It'll take you straight to my website. You can always call our office at 1-800-718-2425. So that's the best way to reach us. We would love to help you. We help small businesses in all 38 states and Puerto Rico. So, yeah.
You have been very helpful. Thank you everyone for hanging on. I know this was another really informative and fun session. So I want to draw your attention to the chat as well. So for more on Sarah's programs, and Sarah really has so many different programs that are helpful. It's sarah-national.org. That's in the chat. And then also the YouTube channel. So if you missed last week, I highly recommend going back and watching the replay of last week. It's already up on YouTube. So you can watch that and then combine it with this week. If you want a replay of this week, that will be up by Wednesday. So rock on, Dr. Cass. This was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye everybody. We'll see you soon.